Hey guys, Mr. Jacobson here. We're already on week 4. A couple things I want to go through. Make sure you keep going to the Zoom meetings. You're getting points for those every single week, and that way we can keep things organized and we can make sure we're all communicating like we should. If you ever have a question, remember my phone number's at the top. You can call me anytime, even if it's outside of office hours. We want to make sure that everybody stays on track. If you notice in your grades that you're missing something and you know you turned it in, send me an email, text, call, let me know, and maybe I just missed it. Otherwise, if you see that you're missing something, if you could please get that in, that would be great. And once you turn it in, also send me something, let me know you turned it in. That would be great, especially if it's late work. Um, all in all, I think everything's been going really well. You guys have been doing an outstanding job. We just got to keep staying on task. For this week, we're already at week 4. And just imagine, it's not that far away from May. Week 4, we're going to start on the new chapter, and that new chapter is New Frontier. And obviously, the New Frontier is everything from the Kennedy administration to the Warren Court, and a lot of these um, situations that are very important. And there was a new leadership, and it was going from the old period of time where the South was dominated by whites to now a new time of freedom. So our first assignment is going to be slides 1 through 5, and make sure you also not only go through them, but also look at the little film clips on these. The first thing is going to be about the election of 1960. You're going to end up having Nixon, and he's going to be a Quaker, he's going to be a Republican, he is going to be running for president, and then there's going to be Kennedy, and Kennedy is a Catholic, a Democrat. And at that period of time, people were concerned about having a Catholic as their president because they thought that a Catholic would receive their word directly from the Pope, and the Pope would be running the church or running this country. He was from Massachusetts, and obviously he was a liberal Democrat. And when it's all said and done, they're going to end up having radio interviews and TV interviews, and they're going to have radio debates and TV debates. But when it's all said and done, the TV is what's really going to end up getting Nixon. When they debated Nixon and Kennedy, Nixon looked very, very nervous. He was sweating. He didn't wear makeup, very unsure of himself. And then you have Kennedy, who, even though he was on pain medication, looked very confident and came across very well on TV. So it was the first TV election, and Kennedy's going to win the popular vote and the electoral college and become the new president. And then you move on to the Warren Court, and the Warren Court is going to kind of be before the Kennedy administration and after the administration, but they're going to be very important when it comes to civil rights. Many of these cases are going to come in front of the Supreme Court, and Earl Warren was the Chief Justice at this period of time. And one of the cases that he's going to hear, and the court case is going to hear, and there's going to be 9 judges, is Brown versus Board of Education. Before, the law of the land was Plessy versus Ferguson. So in other words, they said if there was 2 schools, and one was a black school and one was a white school, it would be okay because separate was equal as long as they each had a school. Well, now, Brown versus Board of Education, many people started questioning that. And this is actually Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas. And they question whether any type of segregation could be legal. Well, Earl Warren and the rest of the Supreme Court justices are going to hear the case, and they're going to decide that Plessy versus Ferguson was incorrect. And they stated that realistically, if you have any kind of separate schools for blacks and whites, it has to be unconstitutional. There's nowhere in the Constitution that states you can have something separate and still be equal. So separate is inherently unequal. So from this point on, they're going to end up having to have black and white children together. Also, Loving versus Virginia, which is just a few years after that, and again, he's going to hear this case, is the states may not ban interracial marriages, and a lot of this was taking place in the South. Then there's a few others that he's going to hear that are going to be very important, and some of the cases that you've probably already heard of. Mapp versus Ohio, unlawful seized evidence, inadmissible in trial. So if a police officer did something wrong and they ended up getting evidence against you, they wouldn't be able to use it in court. Gideon versus Wainwright. Suspects are entitled to a court-appointed attorney if they are unable to afford one. So that way it would equal it out a little bit between the poor and the rich. And then there's others. And then probably the main one would be Miranda versus Arizona. And that's where you hear about the Miranda rights. Police must inform suspects of their rights during an arrest. Okay, that's the one where they're saying you have the right to remain silent and all those type of things. And you can see in a little picture here that talks about all of them. So in other words, you have to make sure that people realize they don't have to self-incriminate themselves. They can remain silent. They are guaranteed a lawyer. When you're done with that, there's a few pages of reading. It's a little bit different form. You have to look at the corner here and click it to make it bigger. And it's just mainly talking about Kennedy and the Warren Court. And then when you're done with that, the Kennedy and the Warren Court, we're going to have some questions to be answered. So answer those. And then as you notice, there's kind of a theme here. It's all about Kennedy and it's about the Warren Court because it's very, very important. There's a small film here, 11 minutes long, about Earl Warren, and he's the Chief Justice during this period of time. And one thing I forgot to say about Earl Warren is Earl Warren believed it was really important for the most part to have unanimous decisions. So that way, the whole country, the whole court would back that decision. So when you're talking about Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas, that was a unanimous decision by the entire court. So he wanted to do everything he could to have unanimous decisions. When you're done watching that, fill out the form on Earl Warren and what you just saw and read about. And after that, your week 4 will end there. Again, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. And I appreciate you working as hard as you are and keep social distancing and doing what you need to do to stay safe.